The Conservatives would argue they don't need any help from Nigel Farage and that they're going to perform very well in the election on the 4th of July. Labour, of course, say the polls are clear. It's time for change. The Lib Dems are expecting success. The Greens have got their own case to make. The SNP, you name it. What's important is that you vote. But don't you think that Nigel should be in the mix? Do let me know your thoughts. I'll get to your opinions in a moment. But first, tonight's top pundits. Political commentator Mark Littlewood, former government advisor Claire Pearsall, and author and social work campaigner Chris Wilde. Let me start with you, Claire Pearsall. Nigel, to run or not to run? That is the question. The clock is ticking. He's got 5 days to decide.
And if he was going to do it, he would have made his mind up and he would have done it already. I think a lot of this is just trumpeting his own success, his own personality, his own particular brand of populism. And we mustn't forget that he had 7 opportunities to become a parliamentarian and he didn't make any of them. And that dates back for some years.
Isn't that our broken electoral system rather than his failings?
Well, I think it's probably a part of both. He didn't ensure that the electorate was along with him for the ride. Yes, his name is well known, he is well known, but it didn't follow through at the ballot box. And I think that there is a reason for that people just weren't sure. And would he really want to go and sit in the Commons, potentially in opposition, where it is a long, hard slog, where to get anything done is impossible? If you're telling me that he would sit there and go through all of that with the potential to take over the leadership of a party he has wished to be decimated, then I really think that you're barking up the wrong tree there, Mark.
Well, listen, let me ask you, Chris Wilde. Half the country, perhaps, estimate, don't like Nigel Farage. Many consider him to be a divisive figure that has harmed the country. Do you think he should be in the House of Commons?
No, absolutely not. I was, especially today when I was shopping for olive oil, I had to pay £7 because, you know, he forced everybody to...
Well, I've got a solution there for you. Stop being so bloody middle class.
Not middle class.
What's wrong with sunflower oil? Have you never heard of crisp and dry?
Yeah. Listen, he's a character...
Or not the butter.
He's a character, love him. I don't like him any less than I like Piers Morgan. He's a character. I think he's like the cat who wants a fish but doesn't want to get his feet wet. He doesn't belong in politics. He's very rich. Go off and retire.
OK, well, harsh words there. Mark Littlewood, I just think for a diversity of opinion within the House of Commons, a few disruptors would serve our democracy well, including Nigel, including Diane Abbott and others. What's your view?
Yeah, you're right, Mark. You want, obviously, a diversity of opinion. But I think in your praise of Nigel, there was one part of your argument I didn't quite follow. Essentially, Farage has been probably the single most influential politician in the UK over the past 10 or 15 years, and he's done that without needing to be an MP. He's going to be a big influence in this campaign without running. It's going to be too late for him to run now. I mean, you mentioned you got to take your chances, as Borussia Dortmund failed to do last night against Real Madrid, but Farage decided not to turn up on the pitch for the first 45 minutes. That's not a question of not taking your chances. He hasn't been there. And if you're an insurgent party, it's probably now too late. If he were to pick a seat, there'll be no data on where the Reform voters are, no canvassing will have taken place. It takes a long time, even if it's a big national news story, for voters on the ground to recognise that their candidate is Smith or Jones or Farage. But I'll make this prediction for you, Mark. I think Nigel Farage will become an MP in the future, most likely, more likely than not, but probably under Conservative Party colours.
OK, so you think that, maybe enters via a by-election after the election in July, or are you talking 5 years from now?
One or t'other. I think it's quite likely, if Reform don't get a breakthrough this time, that they'll fold into the Conservatives.
Well, there you go.